On what time we get done with the committee of the whole meeting?
Yeah, well, there shouldn't be much here. Okay, thank you.
Sure. Oh, you're challenging today.
Yes, very. Very challenging. Ay, ay, ay. Come on.
Who are we waiting for, Jeff?
This is annoying. I just sent him a text. Oh, this is annoying.
Linda, did you hear anything back from Jeff?
No, not yet.
All right. I'll give him another minute or two. We can get started with the agenda. I see that Charlie and Stan are on first, so just want to give him a minute to respond in case he's running late or something's come up. Otherwise, I'm happy to start the meeting. Do we have everybody here? Johanny, I see. Melissa, are you here? I think I see Melissa. Strat.
Yes.
I'm here.
Okay. Hey, Marcia. Hey, Donna. And I see Frank is with us representing the administration. Frank, is that correct tonight?
That's correct. The manager director is on vacation this week, and the mayor will not be able to join us.
Okay. Do you have everybody on the call that you were intending to have for the committee of the whole this evening?
Yes.
All right. Well, then why don't we go ahead and get started? I'm sure Council President will be here shortly. I know that we are recording and live. I apologize. I will not have my camera turned on this evening, but I'm happy to be here with all of you on this beautiful day. What is today? Today we are April 26th. It's a little after 5. You're joining in for the City of Reading's Committee of the Whole meeting tonight. For all those of you watching, we're streaming live on Facebook, and you can also follow along on our agenda at readingpa.gov. You'll be able to download the agenda and follow along for Committee of the Whole and our following meetings. On our agenda today, we're starting out with an update. I know there was an exciting press announcement this morning, which I was unfortunately not able to attend, but I know many members of the administration, the mayor were. And that was really the kind of the kickoff of, I think, what's first on our agenda today. We have the 2021 street paving and pothole repair update and report tonight from the administration. It will be Charlie Jones, Director of Public Works, and Stan Rugas, Deputy Director, giving us that report. If the administration is ready, you can begin. I don't know, Frank, you want to say anything prior to and introduce Charlie and Stan?
Sure. Thank you very much. The mayor did ask that I make a couple very brief remarks on his behalf before Stan and Charlie go through their presentation. As you mentioned earlier today, Mayor Moran hosted a news conference at McKellen and Scott Street to commence his 2021 Paving Blitz initiative in the city. The Safe Streets, which integrates the needs of pedestrians, bicyclists, motorists, and really the entire community as a whole, has been a major priority for this administration. As with many things, COVID-19 kind of delayed this initiative for a year. It was really a priority to start at the beginning of the administration. But as we know, with COVID-19, everything got delayed. There hasn't been construction projects and things like this. So we're starting a year later than we initially planned. But this evening presentation, the Mayor Moran's administration is presenting a multi-year comprehensive safe street initiative, which will allow all members of our community to have a walkable, accessible, and keeping our streets safe. And so we have a good experience. So this is probably one of the most ambitious street projects that the city has experienced in more than a decade. So Charlie Jones, our director, our interim director of Public Works, and our deputy Public Works director, Stan Rugas, is going to go through our the administration's 2-year plan, and they're going to talk about street paving. There's ADA ramps involved. There's traffic signaling. So it's a very comprehensive project that goes beyond just paving streets. So I'll turn it over to both of them, and they can share with everybody our plan.
You're muted, Stan.
Check your volume.
It's the microphone. Check your microphone under audio.
Okay.
This is one good reason we should be in council chambers.
Check your audio settings, Dan.
You are unmuted. You are unmuted. Muted.
Everybody here?
Yay.
Yes. Okay. Thank God I know how to work on a computer. Okay, first I'd like to share my screen, please. This is Mayor Moran's Safe Street project. This is not meant to last more than 10, 15 minutes. It's a brief overview. Charlie and I have worked on this with administration. What we are planning to do is take that initiative, not only for street paving, making the safety with the ADA ramps and also biking initiatives. But we're also bringing the traffic signal initiative in as well, because we all know how many times you go to a traffic light, it turns green, and you hit the subsequent one, and all of a sudden it's red. The mayor's vision and goal is this simply: to reconstruct, to resurface, and to restore and build safe streets. We will use PennDOT liquid fuels money to fund the initiative. This year, Public Works has systematically reviewed all primary, secondary, tertiary, minor, and half street ADA crosswalks and traffic signals. And Donna, may I please interject at this point, where we did see what you were talking about this morning in your email back to administration and to ourselves, that River Road will be looked at as soon as possible and would be brought in for road paving either by the end of this year or the beginning of the following year. You have our word on that.
I appreciate that, because that road is really critical as a connector road, and it is in abysmal shape. Anyone who drives out there knows that.
I
People
agree.
losing hubcaps, getting flat tires. It's not good.
Correct. And
Thank you.
correct. Charlie and I spoke about it. It was in his purview to do, and somehow in the previous administration, it was just not brought to the forefront. So it will definitely be part of our game plan.
Thank you. Because I was pretty sure it was on a previous administration's radar screen.
Yeah,
I
it
don't
was.
know how it dropped off. I don't know how it dropped off.
The mayor's vision is, and as we're talking with you, Donna, is now the community input. We're looking for the downtown plus input. We're going to be working with citizens through neighborhood sessions, either in person or Zoom, and then with city council. And along with that fact, we have the state and local agencies also have their the ability to get us funding. And as we learned today, we're going to receive some monies, I don't know the time frame, to make us a bike-friendly community as well, which is what we've been talking about. This is part of our slideshow presentation showing you current conditions. It may look a little odd. There are 3 cars, actually 4 cars in the picture, but you see a van parked in between 2 cars. That was done to help someone save a space. What we're going to do when we work on roads, we're going to define parking spaces in the road to make our streets more accessible to our parking, which is a huge problem in the city. Another current condition, you can now see the brickwork of the original alleyway. It's actually this is Cedar Street in the 200 block. This street was omitted from last year's paving for I don't know what reason. This is going to go to the forefront of wall. This is Cedar Street. This is in terms of following
Street
through.
is that?
Yes, Strat?
What street is that?
That was Cedar in the 200 block.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. We did the 100 block last year where it was a total reconstruction in front of City Hall. We're going to be looking at Cedar Street in its entirety. Is it going to be a complete restoration? I don't think so. I think we're going to look at it as an overlay. And part of the mayor's vision is just to show everyone what we are doing now. Here is a milling machine. This is actually on McClellan. This is some other work that we were doing on McClellan. Now you can see how complicated it is. That milling machine went down to the actual base of the street. Another interesting thing what we're doing is we're a part of the mayor's vision is the pothole blitz. We have reached out to the utilities, Rawa, UGI, and ourselves. We are going to go on a pothole blitz and attack every pothole we can in a day. And what we're going to try to do is this, through council members and for residents that call Citizen Service Center to report pothole. And what we're going to do is we're going to strike off that pothole and get it done. This is what we are doing now. We're scheduling this between ourselves, PennDOT, and UGI. Obviously, you can read it. Penn Street, McClellan, which is being worked on now, Museum Road, River Road, Lincoln Spring, and Windsor. That's our larger project, not what we were talking about, Donna, before. We have 9th Street, Bingham to the city line, Chestnut, and the Warren Street bypass. Later, again, it's working in conjunction with the 2 other governing bodies, Morgantown Road, Bernadine, Colston, High, and Denton, 6th, now 10th Street. So everybody can see what we're doing. And then we also put on there the 18th Wonder projects. That has been a strong priority for us. And we pushed that through this spring to make sure it was getting done. Part of the vision is to schedule throughout the year and into the following year, the ADA ramps and the signalization. Plus, I can announce this, that railroad crossing, working with PennDOT, it came from a 2026, 2027 timeframe where we've actually, PennDOT has allowed us to move forward in the design phase of new crossings like on Cherry and Franklin, which is a good thing. And then, as I mentioned, we're also going to line parking spaces on the renewed and repaved street. This is part of us for the 2022 tentative schedule. And I can assure you, Donna, we will actually, we'll make sure that River Road's on there. Here's the map. You can see how extensive the process this is. It's a huge endeavor, but it's something we're going to do and get it done. Is there any questions from council to Charlie, myself, and/or Frank, please?
Can I back up to those parking spaces that you want to mark?
Yes, sir. This one right here. Yes, sir.
That's a good idea. But you can mark off parking spaces anywhere. But if they're not going to be enforced, we have a problem.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I can take you in areas right now where there are spaces marked, but they're not being enforced. Like this vehicle there, that's taking up 2 spaces. And that's what the problem is. Just a comment.
We eliminated that portion of the parking ordinance easily 15 years ago.
What's that, Linda?
We took the requirement to park within the parking stall lines out of the parking code about 12 to 15 years ago.
And what good did it do? It hurt us, really.
Okay, thanks, Strat. I saw that Marcia had her hand up.
Yeah, good evening, and thank you for the report. There's a couple questions I have as far as planning and sustainability. The planning piece has to do with, as we move ahead, how well coordinated are we with the road work that UGI is doing? Because we saw this happen when we repaved Cotton Street, and then shortly thereafter, the street looked beautiful. They started to do their projects. Do we have any sense of whether we'll be doing all the repaving and then UGI will have their need to do whatever work they need to do, and then the streets become compromised again?
If I may, Marcia,
Mhm.
under the mayor's plan and working with administration, we have a new mindset in terms of working with the outside agency. There was a time where UGI, Rawa, along with some of the other localities, the city didn't work well with them, and we are. And if you saw part of our pothole blitz, UGI is going to be part of that. We are starting to work hand in hand with them as well, because for you to ask someone to do something, you also should be able to reciprocate in a good fashion. For example, Kenhurst Borough, we were fixing potholes on one of our co-owned streets. And so over on the other side is they had some potholes, so we fixed theirs at the same time. And there's times where Kenhurst will work with us. Brian Cole has been a good borough manager working hand in hand with us. We had the same type of relationship with Cumru. So we're working, and we'll reach out to other ones as well, but we're trying to be as proactive as we can.
Okay. And then the other part of my question has to do with the infrastructure underneath the streets. And I know we saw this happen on Hill Road, where it was beautifully repaved, and then one of our own sewer lines collapsed, and then it needed to be redone. Are we taking into account the addition or the condition of both the water lines and the sewer lines as far as how we're strategizing? Because potholes come from a reason. They just don't appear up. There's usually something going on underneath the street that's causing the pothole.
Charlie?
Marcia, before we put out any contract, once we decide which streets we're going to put in, say, the next contract, we'll send a letter out to all utilities. It's called an ahead of paving letter, to let them know we're going to do X, Y, Z streets. And that gives them time to make whatever repairs they want to make. And at the same time, our sewer crew will be out televising our sewer lines to make sure that we have no issues.
And I don't want to, in asking that question, I think it has to do with how old our infrastructure is. We all know that the issues with the shore, the fact that we have a lot of limestone, which also compromises. So this is a real challenge. And I wish we could educate the public regarding what it takes to actually repave streets. Because I think people think, oh, you just get a piece of equipment out there, repaved, everything's okay. And it isn't that
Right.
easy.
That's true.
That is correct. Thank you, Marcia.
I might ask that for my next program on the MAC channel to talk about repaving and what it really takes. So thank you.
Thanks, Marcia. I'm looking through other counselors. Any other comments or questions? Johanny, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, hi, thank you for the presentation. So just quick question regarding community input. How are we identifying folks to provide input?
Well, first off, we're going to have a phone number for the Citizen Service Center to report our potholes for our pothole blitz. And as we get further into the program, we want to schedule events, either Zoom or let me get to the other slide. Neighborhood session Zoom or in person at either a church or another structure, and then through city council as well. So that's what we need to do, and we'll put it in social media, working closely with Kristen Crespo.
And if I can add in quickly, hopefully when we get this post-COVID-19 situation, the administration, the mayor particularly, wants to have some town hall meetings, community meetings, each quadrant of the city. So we hope by 2022, the conditions will allow us to have in-person meetings. And if we can't, we look to go to some type of Zoom meeting if we have to. But during that process, we plan to get input among many things, but including street paving feedback. And we're probably going to work on a survey also that will be sent out, or we're still working out the details, or on our website where people can put their input in. So that's something that we try to implement by the end of the year.
Will iRequest be utilized as well?
Absolutely. In fact, that's just as effective tool as calling the call center. iRequest is actually very helpful. It's already set up to report potholes. And if for some reason somebody couldn't find it, which it should be in there, there's always a other category that captures everything. And then the call center will make sure it's put in the right category. But yes, iRequest is also a very good tool. Thank you for that reminder.
If I could, Frank, Councilor Cepeda Freitas, you can also submit pictures and video through iRequest of the pothole.
Thank you.
Okay, Johanny. Any other questions from counselors? I'm not seeing any. I just want to take a moment to thank you both for this presentation. In addition, the phone calls and the outreach that I've had, I know directly with Stan over some of these, paving plans has been really insightful. I think when we can talk one-on-one on, hey, I noticed this street in my district has not been paved, for several years. Then we can talk about why or why not, and come to a resolution. So I really appreciate that attention to this project. I think this is where we have fallen short several years in our audits and not being able to utilize the funds appropriately for paving projects. We just weren't able to get the paving done. And so I'm happy to see that this is the mayor's vision and priority. I just want to ask where for public knowledge, can people find the schedule that you just shared with us? So where can they touch base on the city's website or somewhere else to say, oh, this is what's getting paved right now. This is what's coming next year in 21 and 22.
If I may, we will publish this one what's further along in 22 especially, and that's going to be part of the consultant's job as well to confirm locations, because everything's kind of in flux. If I say right now we're going to do River Road, and if in exploring in our investigation of design, it becomes a little bit too complicated. For example, we know that there's a car situation, pothole and sinkholes. We may push that back. I'd rather keep it a little bit more in flux, know that these are the areas we are targeting if we could, please. But we will
Okay.
put up on our website.
Thanks. I think that's going to be real important. And, you know, visuals
Great.
are always a great tool. I know I'm oversimplifying here, but I always love seeing a thermometer that climbs as we reach towards a goal. It'd be great to see, you know, something like a little bit more of a simplified map of our city and seeing these paved routes as you guys are doing a great job accomplishing and paving the routes through the city of Reading. So just a suggestion there to throw out just to keep it visually informative and fun. This map that you pulled up right now is complex and it's nice. And you know, any kind of visual that would be available for the public to digest what's happening and where you are to show that progress is, I think, key. Having your conversations with our neighboring or gateway municipalities is critical. I'm really glad that you're doing that. That's an area also that's been often overlooked. So thank you for that. And again, you know, I think it takes a lot of conversation, not only impact with your community members, your constituents, your counselors, all the way, you know, through to the mayor, because there's always lots of questions in District 1. How come, you know, Liggett Avenue hasn't been paved? How come there's potholes that are eating the cars? You know, and it's just like you said, to give priority to the 18th Wonder project that the citizens have had input in is to say we have to push a pause on repaving this road because in order to complete that, we need to complete the aspects of the design and the island rebuild. So I really appreciate the approach that you are taking. And I see that Donna has a question. Donna?
Yeah, just one question. I noticed on here you had Warren Street bypass east. That's a state road. Why is that on our list?
That's on our list because we jointly work with PennDOT.
Because I know there's some major potholes on that road right now.
Those are that's the PennDOT road, and we were including PennDOT work on this as well in the presentation. Because we have a good inner working relationship with PennDOT.
Are they aware of those potholes though? Because that's pretty significant.
I'm sure they are. And there are also other streets on our list that are PennDOT roads.
Right.
Chestnut
right.
Street, 9th Street, you know, they come to mind. But, you know, we showed everything. And that's all reflected on this map too.
The River Road work in the city, in Northwest Reading as opposed to Riverdale, that is obviously coordinated with the whole extension project. UGI is done now with their pipe replacement, I take it there?
UGI is done. MedEd is working now.
Okay.
They have a number of poles to replace. And along with, once MedEd puts up the new poles, there are other utilities that are mounted on the same poles. So they have some work to do. Also, Rawa has some work to do, but they're waiting until the road contractor is on site. It'll make their work a lot easier if they work concurrently.
And in conjunction with that, West Windsor Street, that's going to take some new signage, I would take it for
Oh,
parking and
absolutely.
stuff. Will that come from
Absolutely.
you guys, or how are we going to work on that? Because that's going to be critical right near the playground area, Lincoln Street, going down to Schuylkill Avenue.
All the signing should be part of the road project. It'll be part of that same contract. All the signing, the signals at Schuylkill Avenue, that whole intersection is going to be redesigned pretty much.
Right. Because West Windsor is definitely again an east-west conduit through the city, and that is difficult enough right now. But certainly we need to make new parking plans there and no parking plans and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, Marcia, I see you have another question or comment.
Yeah, it's more of a comment because I'm always one about educating and engaging the public. And I believe that what we have out here now is really part of our council discussion, which really doesn't hit that many people. And I'm looking at something that we might be able to do I think it's great to post things on the website, to have people interact as far as, areas they've identified. But if we could just have something called Repaving 101 that talks about the process. I actually saw another city had done that, and I think it's helpful. So when you start seeing the streets being milled, when you see that you need to slow down, which people don't do very well in the city at this point, that we really prepare people for repaving, what it's going to look like, what they expect, where they're going to have to relocate, where they're parking, just a lot of basics to make this work a lot smoother and to have community involvement. It was fortunate in District 2 that some of the first repaving occurred along Chestnut Street, up on Hill Road, and we got to experience that. Chestnut Street was a challenge, so was Perkiomen Avenue, which indeed was a state road. But again, I believe we really need to be able to prepare people for what this is like, since it hasn't happened. People are used to complaining about hot potholes, but they don't understand what it takes to repave a street. So anything we can, a follow through really to the press conference today.
Yeah, there was, regarding the press conference, there were people making comment of how deep the street was. You only see the top sheen, if you will, but the street was actually 14 inches deep at the curb because the road probably hasn't been touched in 50 years. And with that situation, there was a comment earlier regarding the underlying utilities, and or if there is sinkholes like we just found out because of on Penn Street, it can. We have other challenges, and you would see the alley that was adjacent to City Hall. We had to spend a lot of extra money there, use fabric to stabilize the soils. It was very, very expensive project, and it was just a one-lane alley. Like Cedar Street, rather.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Marcia, for that suggestion. I think it's always good to see what other cities and municipalities are doing as case studies. So, gentlemen, thank you so much. I know that Council President has joined us, so I want to turn it over to him in case he has some comments, and then hand the meeting back over to you, Jeff.
All right, Lucine, thank you. Thank you, everyone. I apologize for being a few moments late. It looks like the next item on our agenda is agenda review. If you can give me just 1 second, I will pull up the agenda. All right. All right, so let's step through the agenda. The first item this evening is going to be, obviously, we're going to have Joby and Nan. Boy, somebody can somebody pronounce that for me? Joby and Nan.
Oh,
Boyson?
Boyson, yeah, I know who they are. Yeah.
Sosin?
Sosin.
Sosin, okay.
From Celebrate Recovery.
All right. We don't have any proclamations this evening. Linda, how many people have signed up for public comment, please?
We have 4, 2 on agenda, 1 on non-agenda, and 1 who wants their written comments read.
So 3 signed up to be live.
Correct.
All right. Okay, then we're going to go to the approval of the agenda and minutes, including the consent agenda. There are just 2 items there this evening. The first is an award of contract for bituminous materials and asphalt cement for the Public Works Department, to New Enterprise Stone and Lime in Winfield, PA, for the price of $45,000. Anybody have any questions or comments on that specific award of contract? All right, the next item is an award of contract to LFT Engineering Consultant to McCormick Taylor in Exton, PA, and the listed amounts there, $210,000 for this year, next year, and the following year, for a total price of $630,000 for paving, road construction, and road maintenance. Any comments or questions on that specific contract? Okay. Then this evening, I guess it's going to be Frank giving us the administrative report.
That's correct, Council President.
Now, I know the mayor wanted, he wanted to attempt to be at this evening's meetings. He was a bit under the weather. I did speak with him earlier today, so it was his intent to be here, but he was unable to attend. So then we'll have the report from the city auditor. And we do have a report this evening from the Police and Fire Civil Service Board. Steve Price is the board solicitor. Right after that, we'll go into ordinances for final passage. The first one is amending the 2021 position ordinance by reassigning 2 police officers from the Patrol Division to the Criminal Investigation Division, who will be assigned to the Pennsylvania State Police Auto Task Force, fully funded by the Pennsylvania State Police Auto Theft Task Force. Any comments or questions? I know the chief did go over this with us 2 weeks ago. Any comments, questions, thoughts, anybody? All right. If not, we're going to move on to the next ordinance for final passage, amending the City Code Chapter 77, Part 1, Police Department by amending the experience requirements for the position of captain and striking Section 110 college credits for sergeant, lieutenant, and captain, and reserving that section. I believe there's been some talk about tabling this temporarily. Who has comments on this specific ordinance? Anybody? Question?
Yeah, I felt that there was a more discussion that needed to be had regarding what exactly are alternatives to the college credit points, and I was not ready to vote on it this evening.
All right. Any other comments or questions?
I agree with you, Mark.
Hussein?
Yep. I also agree. I was able to have a direct conversation with the chief this afternoon. And I believe that more time here would actually be advisable.
All right. Anyone else?
Johanny here, I concur. I agree. We need more time for discussion.
I
All right, so
agree
there
as
seems
well.
like there's enough interest in tabling it for now. That's fine. Somebody can make the motion to do so. And we'll revisit it in 2 weeks. It will remain on the table, this table.
So until we vote on it or it comes back on, we're going to have discussion about it in that time?
Hopefully, I mean, if there are additional questions, I guess we can put it on the agenda for next week, Linda, as a discussion item, if it's ready to be discussed at that time. I, again, would recommend everyone get their questions, concerns to the chief. Again, it's okay to table things if the intent is eventually to come back and vote on them one way or the other. We don't want to table them perpetually, that's for sure. So to answer your question, Melissa, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Any other comments or questions?
I do, Jeff.
Yep.
I know we're gonna further discuss, but does it make sense to group both items in the same ordinance, or should they be separated? Because there's one that specify or eliminates the promotion from, I think, sergeant to captain. And then there's a section about striking college credits.
I'll defer to the chief if he's available.
Yeah, there's 2 parts to it. She's correct. The first is changing the requirements to be promoted to captain. And then the second is to remove the college bonus points from the promotional process. Yeah, if we could, I don't know if we can amend that and just deal with the first half of that tonight, unless there's any questions or concerns about that, and then deal with the college credits at a later time. I can send out all of the research information we did on the college thing to members of council to review before the next meeting as well.
All right, council, any objection to splitting that out this evening? We can remove all the sections related to the college credit requirements. When the chief's ready to revisit that, he can reintroduce it.
Instead of removing them, you might want to table that portion.
Just table that portion. Well, I've never done that before, but Jesus. I mean, whatever works, whatever the body wants to do. we can do that portion. Comments? Marcia?
We can, oh, sorry.
Yeah, I would think to keep it cleaner, we just table everything. Then we can have the discussion at a later point about how to divide it up and what makes the most sense as far as how to proceed. It will get too muddy if we try to do it, tabling it at the meeting. Just tabling part of it and not another part of it.
Anyone else?
I agree, Jeff. I agree. I just wanted to make a point of reference, though. But yes, I agree. We table the entire thing.
Okay. All right. So we'll move on for now, and then we'll regroup in 2 weeks and see what we want to do. And we'll put it up for discussion next week, Linda, if there's time. Okay.
All right.
The next bill is 32/2021, authorizing the agreement of sale for 313A South 8th Street for $600 after the city followed the purchasing policy by notifying the surrounding neighbors of the property that the property was available for bid. Any comments or questions on that ordinance? All right, and then
Wait, Jeff, Johanny here.
yeah, go ahead, Johnny.
Did we, I thought I read something about community input before moving forward with purchase. Does all of that take place simultaneously, or at these meetings is where we gather community input?
Is someone prepared to speak to that this evening?
Well, I can just say that on a sale like this, we can sell it directly to the adjacent property owner if we also give notice and an opportunity to bid to each of the other adjacent property owners, which is what we did in this case. And then I guess, yeah, the public meeting is the opportunity for input.
Okay, any other comments? All right, if not, we'll move on to the next ordinance, and that is authorizing the agreement of sale for 423 Schuylkill Avenue to the Parking Authority for $25,000. Any comments or questions on that issue? All right, move on to introduction of new ordinances. The first one is amending the zoning map by moving 226 North Fifth Street into the same zoning district as 230 North Fifth Street, also known as the Medical Arts Building property, into the same commercial core zoning district. As part of the project, both properties will be combined into a single parcel for commercial uses and residential apartments. There is a public hearing scheduled during the May 3rd committee, the whole meeting. Any comments or questions regarding this introduction? Marcia, then Donna.
Yeah, we're going to be following the proper process, so that's good. I think more detail, I'm aware of it, but I know probably most of the other counselors may not know so much detail. So I think it'll be interesting to be able to have it presented and the rationale for doing so.
Donna?
And just to, I'm sure we have all the process laid out, but I don't know if anyone can speak to it because obviously this is in the historic district. So how is the process, including hard, because there, I believe, will be another building constructed? Can anyone speak to that?
That's a completely separate process.
But that they will need to be involved in it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And planning as well.
Yes, planning's already reviewed the amendment.
So that's coming to us, but then HARP will be separate when the drawings for the new section are introduced. Okay. Thank you.
All right, any additional comments or questions at this time? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the next ordinance, which is amending the zoning map by moving 654 through 660 Schuylkill Avenue into the same commercial neighborhood zoning district for a mixed-use development. As part of the project, the properties will be combined into a single parcel for a convenience store / restaurant, barbershop, dwelling units, and a shared parking area. Public hearing is scheduled during the May 3rd committee of the whole meeting. Any comments or questions on this specific ordinance? And I'm assuming somewhere along the line, go ahead, we're going to get an overview of what's being done here. Go ahead, Donna.
I think this is going to enhance the neighborhood. I mean, you all know, the area in question there. I think a cohesive approach to it. I'm hoping that the developers are looking at that, the owners are looking at that. But there are several properties there. The old, I believe it was 15-4 Democratic Club is now becoming a grocery store. The barber shop is there. There's other dwelling units. So it'll be interesting to see them all encompassed and given the zoning okay. I think this is a good thing for that neighborhood and for some stronger development. And hopefully using some of the parking situations as they create the parking spaces they need.
Okay, any other comments, questions? All right, if not, we'll go on to the next ordinance, and that is amending the City Code Chapter 353, loitering, obstructing public places by renaming the chapter loitering and panhandling, creating a replacing of a diversionary program to be used to address aggressive panhandling or loitering when it is reported to the Reading Police Department or when police officers encounter it, and eliminating the possibility of a prison sentence. Comments, questions? I know we did recently discuss this. Any additional comments or questions at this time?
Johanny here, Jeff. I was raising my hand, but I don't know if you can see it.
I couldn't see it, even if you were raising it. No,
I know at one of our prior meetings, we discussed potentially also gathering community input regarding this legislation. So I'm not sure if we still have time to make that happen, or would we like to make time to just gather community input? Because I know there were some people that were very passionate regarding the ordinance and wanted to contribute.
Well, go ahead, Donna.
I mean, I think we've done a lot of outreach to professionals involved in this from that standpoint. In terms of the community, I would hope they would express through council comments, through being aware of this. I mean, obviously we have one comment tonight about this. I don't know in terms of doing a community meeting, if we have enough room in a Zoom for 200 people, because I would think there'd be a lot of people involved in this. I certainly want to encourage community input, but I think we've heard to some degree concerns that brought us to the point of bringing this forward. And I think that was some community input there, and we're certainly open to hearing what others have to say. There's a two-week time frame here for people to be in touch with us and express any concerns they have.
All right, additional comments or questions?
Yeah, Jeff. Oh, I'm sorry, Marcia, do you want to go ahead?
Go on the scene.
I have to relearn my etiquette since I'm not using the video today. Thank you, Marcia. So I think a reminder too for anybody watching, for constituents, that use the opportunity of our public meetings and your ability to submit in writing by request, very specifically to the clerk, for comments that would want to be shared and read on record. That is your privilege and ability to do that. There's a specific way that you must do that, and you can obtain that information through the clerk's office. But just, in Johanny's comment of really wanting to make sure that community members who have concerns or statements can share them, that is an appropriate way to do that without having any meeting, so to speak. I'm looking forward to continuing to discuss this. I think that, a unique piece of this is the diversionary piece, and seeing that reflected more so for other infractions and not just this one. I think that's some credible work that's being done and where we should be focusing our attention on.
All right, go ahead. Marcia, were you next?
Yeah, and I think it was interesting listening to feedback that I was getting from people that I interact with. There was one perception, and we had a discussion about it, is that the city needs help cleaning up Penn Street, so that's why they're going to be doing this. And I can understand why sometimes people, not understanding the whole scope of the problem, might come to that conclusion. So the concern was that we were taking advantage of people that had hardships in order to be able to do a service that the city wasn't able to accomplish completely on its own and where this individual is being reimbursed. So I just think it's important for us to be aware that as much as we're looking at it from our point of view of trying to increase the safety, there's other points of view that have to do with how we engage with people that have difficulties when whatever criminal act they might be doing.
Okay, any additional comments, anyone?
Just for, I don't know if we'll have for the next committee of the whole, but the CARES Act funding, I don't know if that's going to be on the agenda anytime soon, because I know that half of the funding will be released sometime in May. So just thoughts and conversations regarding the use of that funding, how it would be.
Yeah, no, Johanny, I'm waiting to hear
From the federal treasury.
about that, and I agree. As soon as we are able to, talk about how and where we'll use that funding, it needs to happen sooner than later. So I know the administration's aware of it. That money really can't go anywhere without council involvement. So, I wish there was a little more information on the application at this point, but I'm not aware of any new information coming into us. Is that correct, Frank? Do you know?
There's nothing new yet.
Nothing, yeah.
We've had preliminary internal discussions, but it wouldn't be appropriate to engage council or the public until we have clear guidelines from the federal government.
Now, I will add, it doesn't preclude anybody on council from starting to think of ideas and ways that are too far out in front of it until we've had a chance to meet with the administration, but certainly it won't hurt anybody to, start thinking of creative ways and most effective ways to use the money. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of energy once we start those discussions. So,
And just a point, it's the American Recovery Plan, not the CARES Act.
Exactly.
Marcia?
I just said something. As much as it will be a challenge, it's always good. You can find the information as far as the actual act on the Federal Registry, which outlines it. It doesn't give you the administrative guidelines as Mara was speaking to. So sometimes just to familiarize yourself, it would be helpful, but it's not going to give you any clear direction until the guidelines come out.
And that's pretty much the information we have. We've attended numerous informational webinars provided by different agencies. And Councilwoman, that's exactly the information we have at hand. We hope to get some information from the Treasury Department soon that gives us the guidelines. But in the meanwhile, as the Council President suggested, this definitely will be a collaborative process. This isn't just the administration. We'll work very closely with the Council and as we build those priorities. But we hopefully have something soon as possible. And when we do, we'll be ready to provide that to the council.
Okay, additional comments or questions or thoughts? All right. Related to the panhandling and loitering ordinance, I guess the public input, they have an opportunity during the public comments. I think the ordinance has been fairly well refined. I've got to read back through it myself, and we'll see where it goes in 2 weeks from now. But it's going to be one of these things that might be a little ever changing. I don't know that there's a lot of, there are some issues in there that might concern people. So I would encourage Johanny, if you know someone directly wants to speak to the ordinance, we could certainly invite them to our meeting in 2 weeks and get some direct input from them as well. I have to go back through that ordinance before we actually vote on it. So, all right. Next ordinance for introduction. Go ahead, Johnny.
Somebody speaking regarding the matter today. I saw an email with statements, questions, and comments regarding the matter. That's why I brought it up.
All right, that's probably going to be read onto the record this evening. Our next ordinance for introduction is authorizing an appropriations transfer of $40,634.03 from project 31-0103, fund balance to project 31-0103, general plant supplies, in order to make the Sam Pottinger Trust donations available for use during the current fiscal year. Jamar, did you want to give us a brief overview of that, please?
Yes, thank you, Council President. There is a private trust fund account set up to deliver an annual dividend to the office of the mayor. It is the Samuel Pottinger Trust. It's been going on for about, I think going back to about 2003. And we have identified uh, dividends that have been sent to the city but have gotten lost in the fund balance account over the years. They haven't been properly segregated from the general fund dollars, which are taxpayer dollars. So we are putting forward this ordinance to set aside those funds so that they can be actively used during the current fiscal year. One of the initiatives, once this ordinance passes, will be the gun buyback program from this past weekend, which was hugely successful. And donations would cover that program.
All right, thank you. Any additional comments or questions? All right, next we'll move on to the final ordinance for introduction. This is authorizing an amendment to the 2021 budget revenues reflecting the increase of $1,427,667 in general fund revenue pursuant to the recently negotiated cooperation agreement with the Reading Parking Authority. Any comments or questions on this specific ordinance?
Council President, this is going to be the first of a series of ordinances due to the agreement that council codified, I believe, back in March with the Reading Parking Authority that increases the revenue available under the general fund for 2021. This ordinance reflects the increase in revenue, and the subsequent ordinances will be related to expenditures tied to this revenue increase.
Any questions or comments, anyone? All right, thank you, Jamar. We'll move on to resolutions. The first one is authorizing the execution of the agreement between the city and Hope Rescue Mission to utilize Hope's Clean Team to clean and maintain the downtown area formerly serviced by the Downtown Improvement District Authority. Who can speak to us on that agreement? Is that attached, Linda, to the agenda?
It is. I believe either Stan or Charlie might be able to speak to that, or Fred.
Somebody could give us an overview of the details of that agreement and the length of it and the expectations.
I'm sorry, I just had to come back in. My dog was barking excessively. I apologize. The question is, please? I'm sorry on that.
Go ahead, Linda.
We're at the execution of the agreement with Hope Rescue Mission for the Clean City, Clean Team initiative.
I am not familiar with that. That is Cindy Castro is working closely with, along with Steve Harity, along with the director of Hope. That was part of his initiative with the city this past year. We're utilizing them. The more we do utilize them, our manpower will then be redirected to other locations in the city. But I know they were taking a good burden off of us in the downtown.
Yeah, and just
the specifics.
Yeah, and I think this is was briefly touched on last week when Cindy gave her presentation.
Yes.
But they've already been, their clean team has already been volunteering downtown. We're going to utilize them, and this provides some payment to Hope for the use. They can't do it on a volunteer basis forever. So it's $15 an hour for each of the individuals, but it's totally on us. We'll be managing part of Cindy's purview in that area.
The only thing that I do know is the monies that Jamar has pointed out to us that are available. I believe that's the pool of monies we'll be funding this with.
This is a yearly contract that's being presented to council. However, there's an option to be able to, either party could terminate this agreement with a 60-day notice. So while it's a yearly agreement, there is an option from either party to terminate within 60 days. So certainly, as Fred said, that the Hope Rescue Mission has already started to volunteer downtown. And we began very positive feedback from property owners and residents on their presence. And they've already spent some time making outreach to the community and demographic in certain areas that we identify as being homeless. So that is already a work in progress, and they're doing this on their own. We haven't obviously entered into an agreement with them, and they're doing this, with no cost to us. But knowing that moving forward, at some point, there has to be some kind of reimbursement and some kind of fee. So it's a very reasonable contract. It's not a lot of money involved. So it's been working very, very well. In fact, this agreement really fits into the mayor's vision of really strengthening downtown by building this public-private partnership that we hear a lot about. Certainly the city's taking a lead on a lot of these initiatives, but we really need the help and assistance and cooperation of other agencies. So the Hope Rescue Mission will be part of our Clean City Initiative as a partner. And I think this is just the beginning. The agreement you see today is a very basic, not a lot to it, with the understanding we're going to build a lot beyond this, hopefully. But we first got to see how this works and how we build it beyond it. But right now, it's a very simple agreement. And once again, we have the ability to terminate it for whatever reason. So we're not stuck into this if it turns out to be something different.
All right, additional comments or questions, anyone?
Yeah, I have my hand up, Jeff.
Go ahead, Lucy.
So, I think one of my concerns is that it says it's the downtown to maintain the downtown area formerly serviced by the Downtown Improvement District. I believe that I had asked Cindy to define, and she had said that right now the administration, with the assistance of the Hope volunteers, we're focusing on the Penn Street corridor. So I believe that's an inaccurate statement for the resolution because the Downtown Improvement District designation was far beyond the capacity of what Cindy had described in her presentation. So I would be concerned that an agreement would be reflecting that former improvement, area when they're just focusing on the corridor. That was my understanding. Is that correct?
What they're only going to be focusing on a quarter at the moment. If we decide to expand that, we will. There's something to keep in mind. When we analyze the former DIDS operation, the same level of service was not provided in the Penn Street corridor to the outer lining areas of the DID district. So not the whole district received the same level of service. A bulk of what DID did was focused on the Penn Street corridor, and that's where we see the biggest need at the moment. It's not saying we're neglecting the outer areas, but their needs aren't quite the same. And right now, for simplicity purposes, we are focusing on the corridor. I don't have a map in front of me, but if you saw the map of the DID and you saw how large it is, you'd be surprised how much was serviced there and how much wasn't. So we're focusing right now on the core downtown. The DID expanded their district over the years, partially because of, I don't want to say, but part of assessment issues, because there's so much tax exempt properties in the core part of the downtown. In order to be sustainable, they actually expanded the area to increase their revenue base. That didn't necessarily always mean, in a practical sense, that those areas receive the same level of service. When we look at their reports and see how the staff spent their time, it mostly was in the core or the corridor. So to start things off and keep the simplicity of it, we do want the Hope Rescue Mission to focus in Penn corridor, but that doesn't mean our crews aren't going to focus outside that. But that's that. So what you see in the document is actually our plan.
Thanks,
I would
Frank,
just
for
say
that
that,
response. Yeah.
I
Oh,
would
go
just say
ahead,
that
Fred.
the document does have the flexibility if we should so choose. It talks about scheduling street cleanings throughout the city. So while it might be focused on the Penn Street corridor from 2nd to 11th Street, there is flexibility built in.
And it's that flexibility that I'm referring to, because looking forward, not looking into the past, we don't really need to dwell on what was in the past. I don't want the city to be held liable for something that's in an agreement now, that individuals would be required, a designated area in which it would be out of their jurisdiction to perform. That would fall back on the city. And I want to be really clear about that. So I want to make sure that there is that flexibility, which Fred just referred to, so that the city is protected in this entity agreement, and that individuals aren't saying, well, how come the outskirts aren't getting any attention? It's part of the agreement. The city is not holding to accord what we determined. Another question that I have is you mentioned a $15 rate. I believe that is a fair wage. However, how many individuals is that paying for and how many hours? That seems to be well beyond the rate. You know, do you have that mapped out? How many individuals does that cover for how many hours, how many shifts?
I believe, and I have to refer back to our solicitor's cap, there's something to keep in mind here. The Hope Rescue Mission is not going to unilaterally solely take over these responsibilities. We're looking at them, if you look at a 7-day work schedule, we haven't provided all this detail yet, but over a 7-day work schedule, what you're going to see is that the city still has a cleaning staff. We're still utilizing them. So we're going to have to take a 7-day work schedule and combine that together. The Hope Rescue Mission is not going to be providing services 7 days a week. It's still a work in progress. And the reason we say that is we're really not going to know the actual schedule until we start doing this combined effort. And the way it's set up, like they may be doing it maybe 3 days a week. We may be doing it 4 days a week. We're talking about 7 day a week coverage. And the burden and the responsibility isn't solely unilaterally on the Hope Rescue Mission. They're just one partner among other partners that we're going to engage in the future in order to accomplish this goal. So this is a work in progress. It's only going to grow beyond that. But these are very good questions that we're going to start formulating the answers as we move forward, as we expand, you know, what we start.
And I have one final question right now. What are the skill sets in which these individuals are providing, or any training that we are providing to them in the capacity of cleaning and maintaining the downtown? I understand that from the perspective and experience from someone who is experiencing homelessness, they may be able to do some direct outreach to other individuals who are homeless. But in terms of hard skill sets and experience and maintenance, do these individuals, or will they have access to that training and that safety protocol in which they might be going out to do some of these, whatever's listed here? It says maintain and clean in the resolution.
Absolutely. In fact, as a participant, as somebody who's part of that Hope Rescue Mission program, there's different requirements to be in their program, and some of them, you know, they're all vetted out. So the individuals that will be working with us will be vetted out by the Hope Rescue Mission. A lot of them attend different job trainings. You know, they're doing further education. They're doing job trainings. So everybody who will be participating in this will be people that are vetted and ready to go for the tasks that we're giving them.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff.
Go ahead, Marcia.
Okay. And just a clarification, because I thought Lucine brought up many important points, but I think this is forward moving. And so I'm wondering why in the agreement, the word did even needs to be mentioned. And I would like to, I don't know whether it's appropriate for us to amend the resolution, because really what I'm asking for is a change in the agreement to remove did and just be able to say downtown and or any other areas designated by the City of Reading administration, so that it's not, you know, tying it in. Because again, the perception I talked about earlier is that all of a sudden the city doesn't have a workforce because it dissolved did. Because of that, we're bringing in the Hope Rescue Mission to do work that, you know, and that's the perception out there. And there's people that are homeless that feel that way, that are like, well, why is the city doing this to us? And so I think that it doesn't have to do with did, it has to do with a partnership to be able to help to clean the city. And with did, or with the downtown area, did's no longer in existence. So I don't even know how legally it can be referenced in a legal document. There is no downtown improvement district. Council voted to dissolve that.
I believe it was added, I think, suggested to make it more clear with the area. We can certainly, and I'm sure Hope Rescue Mission will agree to that small modification. I mean, what we're presenting is something that's going to be in substantially the same form as it'll be executed. And I don't think it's a deal breaker.
Yeah.
So I'll be glad to make that change.
At the very least, it should say former Yeah,
You don't even have to have did in it at all.
I don't know that you do at all, but if it's referred to, it has to be former because it's no longer.
It's no longer, you're right. So I'm going to be stating that in my comments. I will not support that if the word did goes in there, because again, we're moving ahead, not looking at replacing did with these folks. We're looking at a new partnership.
All right, any other comments on related to this issue?
From
My
our
hand up.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Johanny?
I agree with everyone. First, I'm glad that we're moving forward and that we are creating partnerships with our existing organizations. So I'm thrilled and I look forward to the agreement. However, the agreement should be modified to reflect the actual work and to maybe detail out the plan. It should be edited. So I'm not sure if we evening or we'll be voting on it next time around, but it should be amended to reflect what's actually taking place.
My only concern is we don't want to get into too much detail. We need some of the flexibility for this program. This is a new program. This is a program we haven't entered into before. And the idea is to be able to develop something new here. And then if things evolve over time, we have to come back with a different agreement. But we need a starting point. Because in the next couple of months, we're going to learn a lot of new things. We feel we have a good plan and a good approach, but it's going to be a learning process for us, for both organizations. And we're very optimistic about it. When we negotiated as a Hope Rescue Mission, we wanted to keep it without not too much detail. The bottom line is they're going to focus in downtown corridor for this time with the flexibility that the solicitor mentioned, with possibly doing stuff outside of that. But the job and responsibilities, we're kind of keeping it at this point. If possible, this is what we negotiate with them. Certainly, if you want us to provide more detail, we'll do what you ask us. We just got to look for what kind of detail are you looking for us to do. And then I guess my only other comment is, what technical changes do we need to make this evening to remove the word did, so we have the ability to pass this tonight, if possible? So I guess those are my two comments.
And I did note that in the attachment, it kind of lays out which streets and which areas they'll be providing cleaning, which is fine. But we probably should remove the word did, and that we, right? I mean, that we're voting on accepting. Yes. So we should probably just make those necessary edits so that it's.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure from a procedural point of view. I'll have to ask the solicitor. Can we? Is there a way to do an amendment, or I don't know? I have to ask.
I'd be glad to amend it and we can attach it, but I don't think it's strictly necessary. I will certainly make the amendment. What will be executed will not have the word did. Well, not the acronym. The acronym did. It might be in there as a. But in all seriousness, it can be done. It's not integral to the agreement. I don't think it substantially changes it, and a lot of times, you're just presenting an agreement in a form that can be executed. But the idea is to get the clean team in there for the amount agreed upon, and like Frank said, it can involve. We can come back next year when we've had some more input and have a more detailed specifications as to what areas they'll be servicing and what tasks they'll be performing, and we can move forward with that. But for now, I think the authority can come out. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
All right, additional comments or questions on this specific ordinance? I'm sorry,
Yes,
this
Jeff,
resolution.
it's Lucine. I have some questions for the solicitor regarding liability. Fred, who is held liable for anything that might happen to the individuals who are performing this work on behalf of the city in this partnership agreement?
Well, I mean, that would depend, Lucine. That's a kind of a complicated question to be asking. I'll be glad to put more consideration, but I usually don't ask questions about hypotheticals about liability on the spot. That's very difficult.
Well, please feel free. Yeah, if you need more time, we certainly. Yeah. I mean, this is the resolutions here, but we can give you more time if because you have two entities working together, the City of Reading and Hope Rescue. If something were to happen, I don't think that's too much of a far-fetched hypothetical. In addition to
The-
that, I'd love, and take as much time as you need to get that answer. In addition to that, we're looking at servicing, even if you're just on the main corridor of Penn Street, areas that are owned by multiple agencies or entities. For example, you have overlays of whether it's city property, whether it's redevelopment authority property, and I know that that's part of the city now, but you have parking authority, so there again, the whole liability around when there's different, it's not that the city of Reading owns the whole Penn Street corridor, right? So we can't go about it that way, and making sure, where is the liability met within the relationships of these partnerships through these other agencies that we're taking on and these other authorities.
Yeah, and I think it would be it depend on the circumstances. There's an indemnification clause, like in most contracts. In this case, it's mutual indemnification, where if the actions were by did, there's we would make a claim that they would need to indemnify us from any liability, and the same would be said if it was the other way around.
Could I rephrase the question for the solicitor and ask the solicitor, is this, what is different from this agreement than other agreements that we've entered with other agencies? We entered in, I would imagine, dozens of agency partnerships, MOUs with different agencies and different organizations. So this is the typical, there's nothing out of the ordinary with this agreement that we don't have with other agencies we currently partner with. Is that
right? That's what I was trying to imply. It's very difficult to answer that in specificity, with any specificity. But this is not that different. Hope Rescue Mission, is like any other entity, insured, and would be able to, assist us with covering any defending any claims or anything like that. So again, I'm not trying to make this complicated. It's just a hard question to answer.
Well, I thank you. I think Frank's rephrasing probably made it a little bit easier. So I appreciate that, Frank. The second thing that I'd like to ask is that when we speak at this at the public meeting, that the funding is addressed so that everybody knows the amount of funding that is in agreement with Hope and where that is coming from, so that we are not identifying that as taxpayers' dollars paying for this agreement. So I don't know if that's Jamar or Frank, whoever would like to make that statement during the public meeting. I think that's important for the community to know.
okay? One of us, I'll talk to Jamar. One of us will at the right time at the meeting. I'll text Jamar quick, but okay.
Yeah,
All right,
defer to
additional
Frank.
comments or questions relevant to that resolution? All right, the next two resolutions are regarding, one's a reappointment of Ann Sellers to the Environmental Advisory Council, and the next one is appointing Ryan Yanko. Who can pronounce that for me, please?
Yankachek.
Yankachik to the Rec Commission. Any comments or questions on those two?
Well, we get them both. They're going to be terrific.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I served with Ann Sellers on the AC. She is incredible as far as her knowledge base. And as far as we've needed an appointment from the city for the Rec Commission for the longest time. And this gentleman comes with a lot of research. He's done his homework. He knows what needs to be done. So I look forward to it. And if we can vote on it tonight, he can join us for our next meeting in May.
All right. Any other comments?
I'll just echo what they've said. I've certainly known Ann and worked with her for years. She's fabulous. And I've known Ryan since he was a little kid, and he's as good a young man as he was a little kid. So there you go, all the way through. It's good to see him come to work with us in the city, volunteer with us.
Okay, any other comments? All right, and then our final resolution this evening is approving a settlement of the federal lawsuit with the caption Gary Mogul versus City of Reading and the payment of the negotiated settlement amount. I think we have an executive session scheduled here. All right, any other comments for public before we go into an executive session? All right, we're going to go into an executive session. Linda, if you can clear out the room, we should be able to get through this in about, I hope by 6:45, we'll be in a regular meeting, hopefully. Let's see.